Hi there, my name's Ben and I like to read. Today we're going to be reviewing another book by Marcus Tullius Cicero, although this one is a little bit different. This is How to Win an Argument, and it is the ancient guide to the art of persuasion. This is just like On the Good Life, a grouping of Cicero's writings. They've been selected, edited, and translated by a gentleman by the name of James M. May. I don't have any background on him. However, what I can say is that this book is an absolute essential for anybody who enjoys debating, for anybody who enjoys the art of conversation, or even if you just have to, get one up on your baby mama or something like that. In any event, let's hop right into it. What I like about this book, again, like on the Good Life, I'm not going to hop into the details of Cicero's life just because I did a little bit of that already in my previous video, but I will say that like On the Good Life, it's a compilation of all of his writings and musings on the art of oration. What I really enjoy about this book is not only does it include both the translated English version and the Latin version, but what it also has are these small passages in italic characters, which essentially let you know this is James May writing and saying, okay, and they provide the necessary context for you in order to follow along. So it's almost like it's exactly what it is. It's a how-to book. This has helped me a lot, especially with regards to, let's say, if I'm engaging in conversation with someone. This is a great tool to use in order to hone your conversational skills, and again, to try to keep everything that you're saying on, in some ordered fashion. Now, for me, it doesn't always work because I have a tendency to think tangentially and make these crazy connections. So I read stuff like this in an attempt anyway to help to keep my narrative focus on track to varying success. It doesn't always work, for me anyway, but for you it might. I will say what I enjoyed about this as well is that they have around page 130, they've got a little cheat sheet, just sort of these bullet points of what you can do for your argument. And they do include the original Latin text. So for all of you classics majors out there, shout out. You can flex on them and read in the original Latin as well. But I did want to take this book review, if you will, to also speak a little bit more about the art of conversation and the art of an argument. The title of this book is How to Win an Argument. Now, most people assume that an argument is something that's inherently combative, something that's negative, something where, again, example, you and your baby mama are arguing about something. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. An argument can be a debate. A casual conversation is, in effect, a minor form of a conflict between two opposing parties, especially if you're both presenting different points of view. Otherwise, you're just in an echo chamber. So while this book is provocatively titled How to Win One, you don't always necessarily have to, go into an argument in order to be right and to win this argument. I mean, it's about picking battles and such. And I mean, who knows? People who know me may call me a hypocrite for this, as I have had a tendency to be very combative and very debate-minded in the past. However, it's not always the most endearing of compliments. If anything, it makes you really popular at parties. But that said, it's supremely necessary in order to know how to argue your case, in order not just to defend your position and your point of view, but also to poke holes in your opponent's point of view, because rather than doing it in a malicious way, the reason why you engage in it shouldn't be to take somebody down. Like I said, it's not malicious. It's more so that way you both can strengthen your own points of view. should the event arise that you have to discuss this again. So that's why it's really important to know how to, not only how to properly formulate your argument, but also how to properly communicate it. Because there are those of us who have these really good ideas. I mean, this has been true throughout history. You look at people such as Thomas Jefferson, Clement Attlee, the post-war Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. These are two just very prominent examples, I would say, of men who were extremely intelligent and who could communicate very, very effectively in written format. However, both of them were very tedious speakers. Let's say in contrast to someone like Cicero, who was sort of like that all-star player, very well-rounded in both written and verbal format. That said, though, it's you kind of need to be able to know how to hold your own verbally, because despite that, I forget what the statistic is. What is it that they say? 60% of all communication is nonverbal or something like that. The verbal component is very important, because that's your primary modem of communicating what's in your head, what your thoughts are. So in order to do that effectively, maybe not even just to convince somebody that what you're doing is right, or that what you're arguing about is the correct point of view. Ultimately, that really doesn't matter. What matters here is you winning your argument would essentially be you communicating your point of view effectively, and to have the least amount of holes in your argument, in your logic. And I think if you can, even let's say if you're speaking at a debate, or if you're deciding to ruin the party or the cookout, and you're having a big discussion, the argument that is the best constructed usually should carry the day. Unfortunately, there is a lot of emotion that comes into play as well, which is why it's super effective. I wouldn't even say effective. It's more so necessary in order to know how to properly speak and how to properly communicate your views without emotion, so to speak. Although that said, in the ancient texts of rhetoric, and Cicero is one of them, the emphasis of emotion, there has to be some emotion in what you're saying. However, it doesn't. You have to know when to use it at the right time. If you keep playing on people's emotions, again, that's where things have a tendency to become spicy. Then we're getting away from the actual issue, and people start taking things personally, and that's not necessarily always a good thing. However, if you're using emotion at certain key points in your argument, reading the room and making sure, okay, this is where I can turn it up a little bit, or this is where I have to turn it down a little bit, your argument by default becomes more convincing. Another aspect of just rhetoric in general and knowing how to win your argument is, again, how you engage with your subject. How long are you holding your gaze for? I'm sure if you've seen a couple of my videos, even this one, you notice I talk with my hands a lot. It's also, if you're all the way out here and making yourself big, it has a tendency to be very distracting, which is why, again, in most modern schools of public speaking will tell you, you have to keep a certain box, keep your hands within close to your body, and you will also notice, especially if you hear politicians speak, you'll never see them point. You'll either see them, with their, not point directly, but use these almost blunted directional motions with an open hand or with a couple of fingers. You would notice Barack Obama is a big exponent of this one, where he points with his thumb and clenched fist. And again, it's showing that you're firm and very, and you stand up for your values. That's one thing that a hand expression can communicate. But again, how this relates to winning your argument, all of this is not necessarily within the book, but if you study rhetoric in and of itself, and if you read Cicero long enough, you will notice that, again, small little details like that, like how you use your hands when you speak, or the tone at which you communicate your argument, or the volume that you use, your word selection, playing to your emotion, like, keeping your own emotions in check. These are all really, really key tools, not just in winning a quote-unquote debate or an argument, but these are key components in how to communicate effectively, which I hope that I have done in this video for you today. So, if you're interested in the art of conversation, if you're interested in Marcus Tullius Cicero, if you want to learn more about how to be an effective communicator, I would definitely recommend that you pick up this book. It's not that long with the Latin stuff in it. It's less than 300 pages, around 250, even with the notes and the checklist as well. Fantastic resource. If you don't want to read the Latin part, then it cuts it down to maybe 150 pages, if that. It's a great little pocket book to keep referring back to. I certainly don't refer back to it as often as I should. Maybe I should continue to do it. But anyway, if you have read it, and if you have certain thoughts on how people communicate, please let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't read this book yet, but are interested, then I highly suggest that you pick it up, give it a read, and let me know what your thoughts were in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.